Yoo-hoo!
Hey, happy Wine
Hey,
Wednesday.
happy Wine Wednesday, Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, Mira
Mm,
Boucher.
Carl
Cheers.
Boucher.
Cheers,
Cheers.
cheers, cheers, everyone. It's Wednesday. It's time for a glass of Canadian wines. One or two or three, depending on where
Or
you
a
are and
tasting.
what's
Full
the
on
bit,
tasting.
because I got a few here. There you go.
Tasting tonight for real. And Carl will have to guess what three of those wines are. So it'll be lots of fun. You can help us guess.
Yeah, why not? Because I liked the option of asking the crowd to help me because sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. Uh, so yeah, the challenge is up today again, and it is the Okanagan Crush Pad week. Haywire, narrative, and freeform wines, some super intriguing wine, some fun stuff, some well-priced stuff, some single vineyards conversation. This is Summerland pride. I mean, we love, it's probably one of our favorite Summerland winery here right in our backyard. So we're going to host John Daniel Steele, which is, what's John Daniel's title exactly, Mira?
I think
At
he's like the wine
the
club
DTC
manager and director.
Wine Club and DTC manager. Yeah, yeah. And John Daniel is going to join us to talk about the portfolio, but also talk about a little bit more about like the history of the Crush Pad, the expansion in the Garnet Valley with the Garnet Valley Ranch, which is a very fascinating new region coming up, like a great home of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So yeah, really cool feature that we have this week. 9 wines, some, like I mentioned, single vineyards, Chardonnay. We have some amazing bubbles because they do some crazy fun stuff with bubbles, traditional method there. Pinot Noir, red blends, it's 100% Cab Sauv on oak Cab Sauv, which is really cool. So yeah, Okanagan Crush Pad week. We'll have this conversation probably starting in the next 10 minutes or so. Mira Boucher, how are you doing?
Really well. Really well. Yeah, it's been a challenging couple weeks. I did something. I don't know if I was distracted by political commentary about the US election or what. And nobody lie to me and tell me you haven't done something like this before. But about 2 hours ago, I thought, oh, one of the wines I want to blind taste Carl on tonight is a white. And I should really have that chill, shouldn't I? So I put it in the freezer and I thought, we'll flash it for an hour and it'll be perfect. And I got to tell you, I turned it into a bit of a slushy. Our freezer is very good, by the way, I have learned.
Yeah, really, really good.
Um,
So this, I know it's really, really cold. So I'm
it's
trying
very
to, yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
don't tell me you've never done that before. I mean, who's never done that before? You want to just, chill
Oh
it a little
fuck!
more, pop it
I
in the fridge when you
froze
forget.
solid many bottles of wine, frozen solid rock ice cube crack bottles. I
Yeah.
froze some bubbly where it exploded in there. Like I did it all, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So a
And
really
I mean, the
nice
good
color.
news is that if you're planning on consuming it right away, it's not really much of an issue. Like it'll thaw pretty fast.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So there's no slushies in my glass. It's yeah.
But yeah, I was maybe a little distracted, maybe. But
That's a nice
yeah,
that's a nice Sauvignon Blanc though.
you think that's a Sauvignon Blanc?
I don't know.
It's not. But I know why
What?
you're saying that. It's very, yeah, it's got a little bit of that grassiness, but it's not a Sauv Blanc, at least not according to the label on the bottle.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. But I know where you're coming from with it. It's very enjoyable, though, isn't it?
It's pretty fucking good.
I think so.
Oh,
Tell us more about
okay.
that wine, because maybe people joining us, if you're just tuning in, guys, You can help Carl guess these wines. And a little bit later, like pretty soon here, we're going to have John Daniel from Okanagan Crush Pad coming on the show. And he's going to share a lot about really cool wines, some really great value wines we've discovered from Okanagan Crush Pad. They had like 45 wines or something, lots. And Carl has given you his top picks, which is really cool.
There's a slate, kind of a, yeah, like a slaty mineral, like a little tart finish, like the, yeah, like whetstone finish, green apple. Because the nose and the palate are very different. Is that a Riesling? Jeez.
No.
There's a finish. There's a Riesling finish on that.
So it is a unique region. Like this is not typical Niagara or typical Okanagan. And I'm just checking on their website, but I do think this is a pre-release. Like I don't think anyone's ever tasted this one publicly. We received it as a sample very recently. So if I say that, I think Carl's going to.
Yeah, I know exactly what it is.
Samples from.
Geez, this is much more full-bodied than I was expected, though. Because the last time I tasted that wine, it was much lighter than that. Much lighter. So this is the Mouchedry the Pinot Grigio Mouchedry, is it?
You were correct. You are correct.
Yeah. And I was close. Yeah, with the Sauv Blanc, I know how like the connection was made. But this is much fuller than it was the first time I tasted that wine.
So this is an unreleased version. It's a 2022. I don't know if that vintage has something to do with it. Do you remember the vintage last time you tasted it?
Oh, it was a long time ago. What
the tasting notes archive is for. So I'm just going to look it up for you right now.
I believe that I didn't put it in the feature back then because I thought it was missing a little something. And so that's why. But this as a material to be in the new feature, that's for sure. And I have to keep our members updated that, yeah, we just received a full box of samples from Mouchedry. If you haven't heard of Mouchedry before, we featured them a couple years ago. They are from Lake Erie North Shore appellation, just near Windsor. So a completely different, it's a, like how they call that, not an upcoming region, but well,
it's a little known region and it's actually quite old. Like, I think it's quite old.
Absolutely. Right there you go. Speaking about the devil, we have the average wine enthusiast who lives right in the backyard of that region. So
we just landed Carl on a Mouchedry Pinot Grigio, which is unreleased. We just got this as a sample from the winery, along with other samples that just have like tape on them, which are the best kinds of samples.
And how freaking much that we love these bottles with just green tape on it, right?
It's a sneak preview of what's to come, right? But
you remember the Bolero when they had no names for over a year and it has that green tape, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, it turned out to be a 94 plus points. We had a couple of unreleased wine. Mike, I totally agree. This new vintage has much more body than their old Pinot Grigio. It's richer, it's bolder, but there's a really nice crisp acidity. This is a really beautiful wine. I have to say,
the fact that I accidentally turned it into a slushy about an hour ago when I tried to flash freeze it.
That's funny that you brought that because I brought that upstairs here because I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to let people know that I opened that this week. So first and foremost, let's start with probably the best value wine that I've tasted this year. Okay. This is 100% Cap Franc from the 2022 vintage at Mouchedry. You know what? At $21.50 a bottle, including tax, this Cap Franc is absolutely fucking outstanding. Like incredibly well for $22, $21.50 including tax, under $2. And on the other side, at $41, this is 2020 vintage of the century, big and bold. That Syrah is off the freaking chart. Off the freaking chart. I mean, it took me right back to the 2016 that made my top 10 wine of the year 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So Mouchadre is back with a vengeance. What a lineup. I can't wait to dig deeper. Like in what I got, but bunch of them haven't been released yet. I'm talking with Melissa in the next couple of days, and I can promise you all, you guys, you're gonna have access to these new beauties very, very soon. Talking probably January or early February 2025, because that's coming right up. I am so excited about that about these new wines. Holy shit!
Absolutely. And so speaking of price points and great value, because we have great news, like we just sent an email about this. Quality price ratio is a big thing for Carl's Wine Club. It's a big thing for our members, which is just, you know, how can you get the most enjoyment for wine at the price point? You can have a wine that's great value and be like $80, right? And often we're hard pressed to find that QPR though at the $30 and under in BC, more and more, especially with BC, I would say, although that's maybe not always true, but I find that, you know, in BC, you've got tinier lots that they're sourcing grapes from. The land is more expensive. Very often they're hand picking the grapes. So you do, I find, get like some really amazing quality out of BC, because they're small batch and just so carefully tended to these vineyard plots. But sometimes it can be a little bit more expensive. And personally, I think it's totally worth it because you're tasting some amazing things. But we're very excited that this week we found some QPR for that $35 and under, including tax, including shipping kind of price point with Okanagan Crush Pad. So
yeah, I mean, there's some that's outstanding. Like sometimes, like we need to make sure we very differentiate that small little party wine, easygoing that you can just crush for like you know, that $22 or under. Sometimes, like you just mentioned, right, a 25 or $29.99 wines can be a massive QPR when we're talking about a single vineyard Pinot Noir, which is usually like much more expensive to produce, right? And yeah, we got so many of them this week. Like, this is absolutely fantastic. With pound for pound, these wines are absolutely crushers.
Absolutely. And especially like high quality red blends. When it comes to those at $25 and under in BC, they're very hard to find. And we've got at least one with Okanagan Crush Pad this week. It's that narrative, 2019 narrative.
The nonfiction, my friend, the nonfiction is such a fun wine. I mean, I just posted about that today. Malbec, 50-something%. Syrah at 20%. It's Cab Sauv at 15%, and it's Petit Verdot at 10%. So how about Malbec, Syrah, Cab Sauv, Petit Verdot for a blend? All concrete, fermented, all fermented separately, blended masterfully. Like, this just give you a fruity but super expressive wine, round and rich and fun, for $24.95 or $24.99. I mean, this is really freaking cool. In 2019, now we're getting a wine that it's ready to drink now, and really expressive, well layered. I had so much fun tasting that, and that's why I wasn't sure about it. That I tasted it with John Daniel at the winery last week. And I came out of that tasting, I'm like, I need that in the lineup. I really freaking need that in the lineup. This is just too cool to pass on. And yeah, here we are, $24.95. Where is that little bullet? Right here. So yeah, really cool wine. And I think with Christmas around the corner. I know you guys going to open a bunch of wines, and sometimes you don't always need to break the bank on some of the selection. And for one of the first bottle of the night, that doesn't destroy your palate because there's no yew oak in that. It's all concrete. It's soft. It's round. It's fruity. I mean, it goes with everything. So yeah, really, really cool wine. Really cool wine.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of that into that.
Absolutely. So 9 wines that Carl chose out of like dozens that they make. They make a lot of different wines, and fascinating stories behind it. Like Christine Coletta, who's one of the founders with her husband, Steve. Christine's helped set up VQA in BC. It kind of reminds me of who we featured. Was it last week that we featured Southbrook in Ontario?
Yeah, with Bill Riddlemeyer. Well, no, not last week. Like, let's see, 3 weeks ago. Time flies, baby. Time flies.
Dobbin Estates. So those ones are linked to Peter Gamble and Anne Sperling. I think Peter was like the first head of VQA Ontario. So we have these like royalty of Canadian wine who are behind these wineries, and especially Okanagan Crush Pad. That's Christine Coletta. And some great stories behind it. So I'm super curious to know more. I know that John Daniel from the winery is actually in the green room. Should we bring him in?
Absolute freaking lead. Bring the guys in. And before, I just want to answer to Mike. The average enthusiast is calling for his T-shirt, his Thomas Batchelder shirt. It's in the mail. I think that
yes, it is with your wines, Mike. It's been sitting with your wines for a while you were having fun in Tuscany and Italy. So yes, it is in that package. And funny, I think I texted you, but there's a new shipper in Ontario specifically to do with wine, but they only deliver once a week to certain areas. So yours is out for delivery tomorrow, Mike, with your T-shirt. So we want to see that
T-shirt. I'm expecting nothing less than a freaking reel on Instagram with the average wine enthusiast wearing the Bachelor tour. Well, I can see that coming very soon. Yes,
it'll be great. Baby. Vicky's here. Hey, Vicky, nice to see you. One reel coming up. Nice, a fashion show, right? Yeah, amazing.
Exactly. The Bachelor tour.
Let's bring John Daniel on. John Daniel, it's so nice to have you here. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, everyone. How are we doing? Cheers.
Cheers. Happy Wine Wednesday, buddy. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sparing some of your time. I mean, I love it. I love it. We're talking there's a bunch of Ontario people on the show. It's 8:00 out there. So that's where you're from. It's your stomping ground. You started your career in Niagara. There's a few, I think what was Foreign Affair, maybe you were with. I think there's some big fan of Foreign Affair of people that's listening to us.
Yeah, Foreign Affair was my last job out in Niagara. I started with Ravine Vineyard Estate Winery in the St. David's Bench, and then I moved on to Taz for several years, and then Foreign Affair was my last stop before being pulled back out this way to beautiful British Columbia.
What made you made a decision to come back on this side of the country? I'm curious. There's so much good thing going on out there.
There is, for sure. I mean, I think, as a BC boy, as someone who grew up on Vancouver Island, there was always that bit of a magnetic pull to come back here at some point. And it just so happened that the right jobs came up, and I'm always looking. One of the things that I love most about wine is that this product is something that can teach you something completely different based on the day you open a bottle, the people you're drinking the bottle with, the food you're drinking the bottle with, and then on the more macro scale, all of the different regions. And the wine culture has very similar through lines, but every single wine region is very different. I've been lucky enough to spend time in Niagara. I've been lucky enough to do harvest in Burgundy, harvest in Alsace, and really experience those same but different cultures. And for me, that's one of the most fascinating things about wine. So when the opportunity came up to discover something that I'm quite familiar with, but in a new context, I couldn't say no.
That's awesome. Well, we're sure really glad to have you back on that side of the country. You're a big asset for in the industry. And you said the right job. I mean, the Okanagan Crush Pad, the incredible team that you're working with. I'm talking like from top down, right? Like from the very top with Christine and Steve as owner, but at the head of the partnership group. The winemaking team with Kat and Matt Dumaine, which is an outstanding winemaker, and to your hospitality team. So you guys, it's a beautiful place to work, I believe, and we just love it. What to me, like tell us a little bit more about the story of the Okanagan Crush Pad. Because it's much more than what it was at the beginning. The idea of bringing some tenant or bringing some outside people to crush their grape, make their wine, and send them out their way with their own wines. You guys have built a tremendous portfolio, and it's the home of four big brands. Can you tell us a little bit more about the concept?
Yeah, for sure. So, OCP is a bit of a beautiful story. Christine came up in restaurants in Vancouver. She has a huge breadth of marketing experience as well, and it's in her restaurant career that she fell in love with wine, and that's where she really got interested. And when her and Steve were out in Summerland, and they had found some property, looking at retirement homes, and they were just driving down on Fosbury Road there, and they saw this property up for sale. And they had old orchards up there, and just on a whim, a bit of a haywire idea, they decided to purchase that property. And with Christine's developed love of wines, eventually pull out the orchard fruit that wasn't in great state and replant with our original switchback vineyard in 2006. And at that time, we were looking at sort of viable models for a winery. And one of the things that was really in need in the area were for somewhere for people to come in and be able to make their own wines. Either people who have vineyards but don't have all the winemaking facilities, or people who wanted to start virtual projects. We have such an amazing breadth of terroir here in the Okanagan, and so many people really want to take advantage of that and showcase wine in a way that can only be made here in the valley. And Okanagan Crush Pad was offering them the opportunity to do that. We also during that time gained a big following for our own wines that we were making, for our Haywire, our Freeform, and our narrative lines. And so as the years have gone on, and as our popularity has grown with those brands, we've been making more and more of our own products, and less of the custom crush. So now it's a relatively small part of our portfolio, and we focus on those three core brands.
Yeah, three core brands. I mean, the Haywire, narrative, and Freeform. So can you explain to our listener, to the members who are excited about the OCP umbrella, what's the fundamental difference between Haywire, narrative, and Freeform? And before I let you dig and dive deeper in that, I want to make sure people know, like, okay, yes, OCP is really known for the concrete fermentation and amphora, but I know there's some lovers of wine made in oak out there. That doesn't mean that you guys don't do anything with oak, though, right? I think there's still barrel at OCP, Haywire, there's wine, there's some oak ferment in there, there's some oak aging as well. So this is a blend of all of that, correct?
Yeah, that's very correct. I mean, our focus is on the concrete style of fermentation and aging. We find that brings out some of the best characteristics of the terroir that we have played with. That's a perfect example that you've just thrown up on the screen there. So that is our primary focus when it comes to winemaking. But as you can see in the back picture there, with Steve in the front, we have large oak feuders. We've got two of those, and then we do work with some smaller oak vessels as well, predominantly neutral oak, so predominantly vessels that aren't giving a lot of those big newer oak spices, big newer kind of barrel characteristics. Our goal here is to express the terroir as purely as possible without too much involvement of the oak flavors that can sometimes dominate a wine depending on the style that you're making it in.
I have to say, before we talk about the specific brand and what they're standing for, it was, I would say 3 years ago, because I was still living in Calgary at the time, that you guys put together one of the first ever this of a kind tasting. That was when you guys released for the first time a wine fermented and aged in concrete, made from the dirt for each and every vineyard where the grape were grown. So did I make sense? Did I make sense how I said it? Eh? So building a concrete tank with the dirt of the vineyard where the grapes are grown and fermented in that very specific tank, right? Here is my Haywire Garnet Valley Ranch Chardonnay, fermented in the concrete tank made with dirt from the Garnet Valley Ranch terroir.
It was a really cool project. In 2020, I mean, obviously the world was in a bit of a flux. We had some time on our hands, and Steve comes from concrete. So Steve comes from the construction industry. He spent many years working on large commercial and industrial projects. He has a big and deep love for concrete, and so when you come and you look at Okanagan Crush Pad itself and the new Haywire tasting room, you'll see Steve's influence there for sure. And one of the things that came up in 2020 was this idea of, we're so focused on terroir-driven wines, we're so focused on using concrete to best express these terroir-driven wines. What if we were to make some test tanks using the terroir that these vines are grown in to make the vessels they will then be fermented and aged in? And that's where that whole project came from. So we made a few different vessels, or I should say Steve made a few different vessels from a few different vineyards that we have here. So the Switchback Vineyard, which is our home vineyard in Summerland, and then our Garnet Valley Vineyard, and then we also made some from the Seacrest Mountain Vineyard, which is down in Oliver.
Yeah, that is really, really cool project. I had the privilege to be at the first tasting that was done out there, and that was part of the 30 people, and it was really, really, really cool. Anyhow, let's talk about narrative versus Haywire versus Freeform. What is the fundamental difference of the three brands?
That's a really great question, Carl. One of the best things about Okanagan Crush Pad, not just for the consumer, but also for us who work there, is that we get to play in a lot of different sandboxes. I know that Kat and Matt love to be able to make so many different styles of wines from so many different vineyards. And that's really how we've broken down our brands, through the Haywire, the Freeform, and the narrative. So our Haywire brand, that's becoming our home brand here in Summerland at Okanagan Crush Pad. These are the wines with personality. These are the wines that we are making, as we were talking about earlier today, about that QPR, right? This is where we're seeing that really lovely sort of mix of high quality wines with a lot of complexity, but at a very reasonable price point. We're looking for wines that you can bring home, you can have on a Tuesday, you can have on a Wednesday. You don't necessarily have to save them for the big special occasions. You can open them at Christmas, you can open them for your anniversary, but they're also available for day-to-day drinking. And then we have our freeform line. Our freeform line is really our push into the low intervention style of winemaking. The majority of our wines are made with that style in mind, but the freeform line is really pushing that to its most purest form. So these are wines where we're not doing any adds to them at all. They are all natural ferment. We're not doing any fining or filtration. They are really the purest expression of the terroir, and the majority of these wines come from our Garnet Valley Ranch vineyard. And then our narrative line, we call this a story of the Okanagan. So it affords the winemakers an opportunity to play with different terroirs from all across the valley. So we have made wines in the narrative line all the way up from Lake Country, all the way down to a Soyuz. They don't necessarily follow each other vintage to vintage. One year, if we find a great vineyard that's producing great fruit from growers who grow in the same philosophical mindset that we have, we might make a Malbec. The next year, we might make a Syrah, for example. But these are wines that we really get to sort of showcase all of the wonderful different pockets of what the Okanagan has to offer.
That's yeah, saying that helps a lot to understand a little bit more, and everything in there, it's all in mind with a great price point attached to every single freaking SKUs out there. Now, the organic philosophy. You guys are certified sustainable. You are working a lot with I think most exclusively with growers who are farming with the same mentality that you guys are. So is it something that you guys have been following, a philosophy that you've been following since the very beginning, or is something that you guys have developed over the years?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, it's always something that's been really important to the Okanagan Crush Pad brand, the Okanagan Crush Pad story. What it really comes down to for us is two things. It's the best expression of the grape, and the best likelihood that we'll be able to create equally as good expressions or even better expressions in the future. And for us, we find that these practices are the best practices to ensure that. As we grow, you know, we're hitting our 15th year anniversary next year. Things change in this industry, as you well know. One of the most exciting things about wine is that it's a 10,000 plus year old product that has innovations happening to it every single year. And so we're continually growing in that model and in that philosophy. We do a lot of work to educate ourselves as well as others about the best practices and the best methods. And so you'll see our philosophy growing towards that more over time, but always something that's really been important to us. And it's really for that core reasoning that we want to be making the best possible expression of our terroir right now. And we want to make sure that 10, 20, 50, 100 years down the line, we're still making that best quality expression.
We had a really good quote from Bill Riddlemeyer, owner at Southbrook Vineyard, a winery that you know very well in Niagara-on-the-Lake on the 4 Mile Creek appellation. Bill told me when I was there last time, I was asking about his biodynamic program and his organic program and all that. He said, yeah, but this is all bullshit if the wine doesn't taste good. Hey, I mean, yeah, it's a great philosophy, but if you don't make a good wine, there's no freaking point to do all of that, right?
Well, 100%. And I think, you know, I mean, when you look at the end product, you know, it has to be showcasing the highest quality possible. You know, you can't be making decisions in the vineyard just to be making decisions in the vineyard. It has to have an end game. It has to result in something positive. And so for us, that's why those two things are very intertwined, is because it's important for us to continue showcasing the best we can, and this is where we're seeing the best results in both those categories.
You guys are bang on. I mean, I more and more every time that I taste with you, every time that I dive deeper in my knowledge of what you guys do, I gain more and more appreciation for your portfolio. And one more thing before we talk more about the wines in the lineup this week, I want to talk about, God, it's a Summerland conversation here. We are down here in Trout Creek. You guys, the winery is 10 minutes up the hill from us. It's Summerland. Summerland has never been the big name of the Okanagan Valley that gets the attention, right? It's the Naramata Bench. It's West Kelowna Wine Trail with these, like, with the Mission Hill of the world, or it's the Golden Mile with the down south, and like but Summerland has been in the center of so many great grape growing product for now like 20 years. And there's some things happening right now. It's a development of the Garnet Valley. I mean, I've been watching that for a while now, and you guys, Christine and Steve, were very, very ahead of their time in 2012 when they decided to purchase the Garnet Valley Ranch and exploit that little parallel valley, like 10 minutes outside of the main road here. But this very the specific terroir has something very beautiful to offer to Wine Geek.
It does for sure. It's very unique, and Summerland's super interesting because it's such a small area that has 3 sub-GIs.
I know, right?
Like,
It's like
all right,
it's the
all right
Burgundy,
next to each other.
of the Okanagan.
And I have used that analogy before. And I think what's really cool, and it's one of the things that drew me to Summerland. It is a hidden gem. I don't think there's ever been a more apt description than that. You're very correct to say, you know, people automatically look at Naramata, the Golden Mile, they look at the West Kelowna Trail. Those are the popular regions sort of just surrounding where we are here in Summerland. You come down to Summerland, you have a plethora of different wineries making all different styles of wine from all different styles of terroir. We've got great breweries, amazing cideries. We've got wonderful distilleries as well. Some fun little restaurants here also, and nowhere near as much traffic. It's a really beautiful place to come down and come see. And what I think is at the core of that is that we have so much variety in such a small geographical area. And what's great about Garnet Valley, you know, it's only about 15 minutes from the winery, our main winery, which is down in Summerland Lakefront. But it's a completely different terroir. We're seeing much higher elevation. We're talking, you know, between 600 and 700 meters. We're in the 2,000 feet category here. It's some of the highest vineyards that are planted in the Okanagan. And we're not seeing quite as much of that lake effect in Garnet Valley. So we get a really great diurnal shift. We get really lovely warm days that are slightly mitigated by the altitude, and then very cool nights, which help retain that acidity. So lots of really lovely ripeness, but great balance that are coming from these wines. Fresh wines, bright wines, really vibrant wines.
And there's also one thing that I learned that with Thomas Batchelder. Thomas said, Carl, we are into some very, very unique terroir when you can taste some similarity between white and reds. There's some unique thing that comes in the white and the red coming from the same vineyard. Now you know that you have a true terroir wines. And I made that connection when I tasted the Freeform, the Freeform Blanc de Noir, which is 100% Pinot Noir from the Garnet Valley Ranch, and the Haywire Garnet Valley Ranch. These 2 darn wine took me exactly at the same place on the finish. Exact same freaking finish. It was absolutely astonishing. And that salty, chalky minerality, which clamps down at the end. Like, it was to me, it was like, whoa, what is going on there? And I didn't know at the moment that before I understand that the Freeform Pinot Noir was from the Garnet Valley. And when you gave me the answer, I'm like, holy shit, now that makes sense. And that's what we talk about, true terroir expression.
Oh, did I lose you, Carl?
Oh, are you here?
Oh, yeah. No, I just lost you for a second. But yes, it's pretty incredible. I think, I mean, that's why that property is so exciting to us. And we've been making wine from that property for a few years. It was just in 2021 that we made wine under the brand new Garnet Valley Ranch brand. So up until that point, we had those that fruit being used in our Haywire wines. And after a few years of making wine from that site, that's where Matt and Kat realized exactly what you just said. Is there is something very special about this terroir. We've been making it as a single vineyard wine under the Haywire label, but it deserves its own label. It deserves its own story. And so that's where we fully opened the Garnet Valley Ranch Winery. We currently only make a Chardonnay, a Pinot, and a traditional method sparkling from that site. But that came directly from us experimenting with that terroir and seeing how incredibly not only just unique but expressive it was. It's not every terroir that necessarily shows with such intensity, and not every grape shows terroir with such intensity. I mean, I'm gonna avoid going on a long Riesling rant here, but the beauty of the Garnet Valley Ranch is that regardless of the wine or the style of wine, and we can talk about the Blanc de Noir, we can talk about the Garnet Valley Ranch Chardonnay, or its still Pinot brother, or even the Vin Gris that we can talk about a little bit later. We're seeing those very similar sense of place characteristics being such a strong aspect of each of those individual wines.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned the Vin Gris, because I realized when I reviewed all of my notes, I'm noticing that chalky finish on the Vin Gris as well. And I reread my note. I'm like, oh, there you go. Of course, it's the Vin Gris of Pinot Noir. That's where the same grapes are coming from different vintage. Yeah, this is absolutely astonishing. So this week,
I have to say,
yeah,
as
go
a
ahead,
newbie
Mira.
to wine, okay, I heard Thomas Batchelder about a month ago after we had the incredible members event with Thomas Batchelder, tasting wine in the vineyard with him and seeing how different a wine can be. Like, even if the vineyard's like 20 feet from the other vineyard, it's like totally different. I have to say, tasting these Garnet Valley wines in fairly close proximity to each other, like within the same week we tasted them, I could totally draw the parallel between them and be like, yes, they all have that saltiness, that minerality, that same kind of feel, but different varietals. And that's what Thomas Batchelder was saying to us as well, that's when you know it's really terroir, when you taste it in the reds and the whites, that same line of flavors and feeling of the wine, right?
Exactly.
It's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Really, really cool thing.
And so for
Garnet
people Valley here, like, it's a fascinating terroir in itself in terms of like what it looks like. And you guys do these tours in an ATV around that Garnet Valley Ranch, don't you?
Yeah, so during the season, we have a couple different options. But one of our experiences is a full tour of the property, because it's quite an expansive site. It's a 360 acre site. 60 acres planted. After this winter, we've lowered that slightly, but 60 acres out of those 360 acres planted traditionally. And so there's a lot of different sort of micro terroirs within that Garnet Valley location. The majority of the vineyards are facing southwest. We have a little bit that are facing southeast as well, so we get some really good sun contact, especially during the summer. And when you're coming in for a tasting and we take you out on our people mover and we drive you down and then up to the Chardonnay block and the Riesling block and then over to the Pinot, you get to experience the difference. And if you're coming in sort of either the early spring or the later fall, I mean, you'll even feel the temperature differences as we climb elevation. So you really get that full experience of what these grapes are going through and how big the difference is over a relatively small geographical location.
It's really
Yeah,
cool.
really, really cool. I think we had that experience, Mira and I, when we went to Courcelette in the Simil Camine, where Charlie took us in the ETV, and we went all the way up the new block. And we probably climbed about 500 meters. We got up there and it was freaking freezing. We had to put our jacket on, and you go back down at the end of the, like, going up there, and like, oh, take the jacket off, and like you feel like it's warmer by 3 degrees. Really, really, really cool stuff. So that Garnet Valley Ranch, I mean, we have 3 wines coming in exclusively from the Garnet Valley in this offer. The Freeform Bubbly, which I rated 93 points, is my highest scored wine in the whole thing. That wine, I have to say, after I left the winery that we tasted it together, JD, I came back home and I tasted that wine on 4 days straight. Usually bubbly, you lose the bubbly after a day and a half, it's all gone, right? This wine was keep rocking with the soft mousse coming out after 3 days. I couldn't freaking believe it. I had so much understanding. I dig so deep into that wine for 3-4 days straight. It was amazing. So this is the Bob here, but with the
you were talking
Freeform.
about the Freeform Bubbly, which I totally agree. But that's one thing that you guys are so good at. Like, before we knew much about Okanagan Crush Pad, we already knew that you make great bubbly, and that Freeform sparkling that we just had, just 93 points. I mean, just confirms that.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I add that to my list of reasons why this place appealed to me. An excellent sparkling line, and you know, I'm a sucker for bubbly. Who isn't? I don't trust people who aren't. But it's got such a beautiful portfolio of sparkling. So we're looking at everything from Charmat, sort of crisp, fresh, easy drinking styles, all the way to traditional method styles, up to 5, 6, even 7 years on tirage. So it's a really, going back to that hidden gem, sort of best kept secret. We have quite a large portfolio, and I don't think we talk about our bubblies enough. I don't think we ourselves talk about our bubblies enough, because in that portfolio, you're seeing some really excellent expressions and at a really good price point too.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're bang on that, because like when you look at the Bob here, sorry, I mean the 2017 vintage. So now we're talking about a 7 years old bubbly, which has now what I like the most. Let me backtrack, because the coolest thing that I've done with that tasting with you is to see the difference of style between the Bob and the Freeform. 2 sparkling, 1 year difference, but stylistically completely at the opposite of the spectrum. The Bob is zippy, is zingy, it's citrusy, it's all on citrus and directional, and the Freeform, it's all about mousse and softness and intricacy and complexity. So completely different style of bubbly. Here at the Bob 2017, and I mean 50-50 Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, a blend of vineyard from Oliver, also with the Garnet Valley. So a blend of north, central and south Okanagan in the same bottle here.
Yeah, that's correct. And so we get to see a little bit more of that ripeness coming through. That's courtesy of the more southerly vineyard, but we still get that really nice balance, that crispness, more of that minerality, that chalky thing that we've been talking about a lot tonight, coming on the finish, on that back end of the wine. 2 years on tirage, so it has just a little bit of that dusting of autolytic character. We're seeing a kind of hint of Poisson. We're seeing just a little slight brioche, but it's really focused on the fruit. It's very bright citrus, very apple forward. It's a very straightforward sparkling, despite its complexity, despite all of its character. It's one of those, you can bring it to pretty much anyone's home, and if they like bubbles, they're gonna love this wine.
It's filled with energy. This bottle is filled with energy. And when you go to the free form, it's soft, right? That's that biggest difference in between. So I really enjoy that. So that's our first item on the lineup. And after that, we go with the Chardonnay, the Garnet Valley Ranch Chardonnay. We already talked about it. I gave it a 92 points. No, 91 points for this one. I mean, this is as easy drinking as it gets. Easy drinking, but not simple. There's a big difference to me, right? So I love that. There's neutral oak in there, probably.
There's just a little bit of neutral, yeah. So it's concrete and a little bit of neutral in there, which adds a bit to the texture. It also different style of oxidizing during during the aging through concrete and through neutral. What I love about the Garnet Valley Ranch Chard, which is one of the things I love about pretty much all the Garnet Valley wines, is that we get that really nice complexity in the different layering of flavors. So big fruit, but then we get a little bit of herbaceousness coming in as well. And then we get a little bit of minerality. And then we get that slight kind of salinity thing. And I think that's what's best about this particular vineyard and these particular wines, is that they are layered in their complexity of flavor, and they're all intermingling quite well. You know, I've had wines that are overly herbaceous. I've had wines that are, overly fruity without the acid balance. And I think that what we see with Garnet is this very special region and very special place that is giving us, without a whole lot. I mean, not to say that we're not putting a lot of extra hard work into this, but when you find a beautiful terroir, nature does most of the work for you. As long as you take care of it, as long as you do the right things in the vineyard, our goal every year is to make Matt and Kat's life as easy as possible when the fruit shows up at the winery. And if our vineyard managers, if the Knicks have been doing their job, and our crew has been doing their job, we basically just get to shepherd this wine into exactly what I think it was meant to be, what I think this place was meant to be. And that's a really beautiful thing when it comes to the GVR wines.
Yeah, it sure is. And one other thing will make that wine exceptional, it's the price point. I mean, when you talk single vineyard, with that balance and that everything you expect, when you check, okay, acidity, check, fruitiness, check, texture, check, precision, check. Okay, now you're expecting something $45 or above, because I checked all of the box that gives me everything I need for a very, very, very good Chardonnay, and we're at $29.99. I mean, to me, that's the biggest check mark of all when we're talking about the QPR of all. So yeah, really, really, really cool. I love it. And talking about that, you give me access to something. Let's stay on the Chardonnay topic, because Garnet Valley Ranch, it's in Summerland, just on the outskirts of Summerland. This is the DeLonghi vineyard. Okay, so a very small batch of single vineyard that you've made here, also from Summerland, but delivering something completely different, very unique on its own. So tell me a little bit more about the DeLonghi vineyard. And we have 24 bottles available for our members, because this has not seen the market yet. This is a very tiny batch. This will be exclusively to your wine club members, because I beg enough. And I beg enough. You say, okay, fine. If you stop, I'll give you 2 cases. So I promise to stop, and I have to thank you for that.
Is this one I have on the screen, right? Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, no, you wore me down. This is well, I mean, it was hard to say no after you tried it. The face you made, I was like, oh, I got to give him some now. I can't be such a tease. It's a beautiful vineyard. It's a beautiful wine. So we've actually been working with this vineyard for a few years. Up until 2022, it was going as part of the blend into our bub. so into our sparkling. And then Deb DeLong and Tai G purchased the vineyard, and they were very interested in making a single vineyard still Chardonnay. And we really like the terroir. We wanted to play around with it. And so in 2022, which stellar year here in the Okanagan, couldn't think of a better year to start off with for a single vineyard expression like this. And the result, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. What we like about, so it's this site is showcasing a lot of really big, bright fruit, and then the way that Matt and Kat have made this wine with the lees aging in that concrete. We've got this gorgeous texture to it as well. It's a texture that would almost make you think of an oaked Chardonnay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was just looking for the oak flavor and I never got it. But Jay's like that texture, the leesy also component, which is to me a beautiful characteristic when it's aged on lees. That's beautiful. Wow.
It's a really great balance between, because it's quite a high acid Chardonnay as well. You know, it's quite fresh. We're seeing a lot more of those fresher citruses. It is, and you know, I think that's what really makes this wine special, is that sort of perfect edge of a knife balance between the richness of the palate and that racy, bright acidity in the flavors. It's really incredibly well balanced.
Yeah, I'm talking a little bit more about the Chablisian style in my tasting notes, where it's not Chablis, it is not at all. But when I try to recreate a new world in my mind, that's what came to mind, because there was that beautiful texture, a very terroir-driven style of wine without the oak in there, and I was like, you know what? This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So well done. I like sometimes a little bit of like the 13% alcohol. It's not a hot wine in any way, shape, or form, but sometimes without the oak, but my 11.2 get me a little too linear, a little bit like is missing something. Now with the little 13% in there, and gives me a little bit more to play with. I thought that was really, really cool. It's my second highest rated wine of the feature. I gave it a 92 plus. And yes, I mean, you saw my face when I tasted it. I was like, holy fuck, this is cool. So I really like that. Thanks for allowing us to offer it to a few members here across the country. We really appreciate that.
Oh man, it's our pleasure. We all had the same face and same exclamations when we first tried it. You know, at this point, it's just really fun to show people, because we're so proud of it.
There you go. Let's move on to the nonfiction, because it's cool. I just posted about it today. I did a little video about it, and I'm talking often about my quest of finding good value wine in BC. The $25 or under 25 red blend, it's almost inexistent anymore, and this is part of it. I mean, it's $24.99. It's a blend of Malbec, Syrah, Petit Verdot, Cab Sauv, and just a little splash of Cab Franc. Really cool wine. This one has arrived to its prime window of drinkability. It's 2019. This is the party wine for Christmas. It's fruity, it's easy drinking, but it's well layered and well balanced. So yeah.
It's a lovely wine, and it's a really good expression of that brand. We're showcasing fruit from a variety of different vineyards. We're focusing a little bit more southerly with this particular expression. What you said is totally correct. It is a Christmas party wine. You know, this was my go-to summer red. You know, barbecues and late night dinners. This pairs with pretty much everything. it goes with pretty much everything. It goes great on its own. It's one of those very versatile wines. And again, and something that seems to be a sort of standing point in our portfolio is you get these very versatile, very approachable styles of wine that still have complexity. They are still interesting. They still have nuance. You go back to them again and again and again. And I think that for me has been one of the most exciting things about opening new narrative vintages as we go through, is to always come back and go, oh, I tried this 2 weeks ago, and my tasting note is completely different. And I think finding a wine that has that versatility, has that approachability at that price point with that added layer of wine geekiness to it, it's a pretty special thing. And hats off to the whole winemaking team and the whole vineyard team for pulling that together in 2019.
And you know what? My tasting notes is that, like you mentioned, I see the influence of the Malbec and the Petit Verdot together, what brings the floral component. I can see the little meatiness of the Syrah coming into the mid palate. So these are the layers that I can attach to the grape varietals. It's really cool. I enjoy that through and through. And again, probably what I enjoyed the most is to look at the price point and make that big green check mark, value QPR, 90 plus points, and that Christmas party wine. I mean, you can find it's right there, right there. Two more wines that we'll talk about, and like now we're getting I'm losing track
John
again.
Daniel's got to go. You said he'd be on for half an hour. It's been 40 minutes.
I know, but John Daniel will start, like, he knows me a little bit more than that, and he knows that when we talk half an hour, he knows that it's an hour and 15 minutes or something like that, right? No?
I booked out an hour and a half in my schedule, so we're good.
Quickly, okay? 100% Cabernet Sauvignon here, okay? This is South Okanagan Cabernet, and that's another thing. Look around, Google good quality Cabernet, 100% Cabernet Sauvignon wine. You don't find that under $30. It's extinct. That doesn't exist anymore, right?
Anywhere,
so free,
like BC or anywhere, right? Yeah.
I mean, this is a rare freaking thing to find. So 100% Cab Sauv, free form. So like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, John Daniel, it's 100% native yeast. It's the purest form of Cab Sauv. It's another fruity wine. It's easy drinking, but there's complexity in there. There is some element of that grapes that coming back when you taste it, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, yes, this is true to Cab Sauv.
For sure. This is one of the cooler wines that I think we have, in the sense that we're not used to Cabernet Sauvignon that doesn't have a lot of oak influence to it. Regardless of whether it's a cool climate Cabernet Sauvignon or a hot climate Cabernet Sauvignon, they're always, for the most part, tends to be a pretty heavy oak influence. So this expression, predominantly concrete, really gives Cabernet Sauvignon a bit of a different filter, a bit of a different sheen, but you still see everything that makes Cabernet Sauvignon. It's still dark fruit. You're still seeing a little bit of that slightly mentholy sort of eucalyptus character coming through. You're seeing that beautiful
the pencil lead. That's the pencil lead. And it's not obvious at the beginning, but after a couple swirls, you're like, huh, there you go. There it is. So yeah, there's some few key points that pops up.
Exactly. And then you get this really sort of, relatively bright and fresh style of Cab Sauv with this gorgeous earthy quality that comes through. It's just got this really, almost Pinot-esque type of earthiness on the finish, which I know. Really enjoy.
Earthy undertone. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A little bit slight pipe tobacco as well. Who really connect me with Cab Sauv once again. And last one, I mean, this wine is ready to drink. This wine is very rare. This wine is almost extinct in your portfolio. That's another one that we have very slight quantity of it because it's gone. It's just gone. It's the 2018 Syrah Viognier, the good old co-ferment South Northern Rhone style of a Syrah. So you are at probably what 86-14, I think, the split Syrah Viognier. Not all co-fermented, I believe. I think when I understand the tech sheet, there's a little portion of Syrah who has been fermented on its own and reblended after to give a little bit more of the spice of the crunchiness at the end of the wine.
Yeah, the Viognier in this wine, I mean, it does a lot of what the Viognier does in the Rhone wines. It lifts a little bit of that florality. It sort of gives a more perfume to the Syrah. It takes this grape that's so rich and meaty and peppery, and it gives it a little bit of a jump. And I think that's what's really cool about this of Syrah making when you're using the Viognier to add not only complexity to aromas or flavor, but we're also playing with that textural lift. We're playing with two varieties that are, I think, meant to be together. If not in separate bottles on the table, I think when they play together in the hands of a talented winemaker, you really get the best out of the Syrah. The Viognier is, I talk a lot about performance enhancing oak when I'm talking about wines and how that can give a sort of enhanced character of a specific wine. Viognier can be very performance enhancing as well. It just gives you that little bit of an extra something to a familiar product.
Okay, let's translate it. The Viognier is the steroid for the Syrah, right?
Yeah, sure. Or the spinach for the family friendly.
What made Ben Johnson finish first instead of finish third on the round? I get it.
There you go.
And again, $29.99. I mean, that wine is extremely well priced. That's a gem, and we have just a few cases available for the members. So Viognier is the Viagra of the wine blending. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it, Mike.
Spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, spicing things up. Keep it up, I guess. So, John Daniel, thanks, man, for your time.
Okay.
I mean, it's just
before
fantastic.
you go, I have to say something. I mean, Vicky started it on Facebook. She said, I remember John Daniel from Ravine Vineyard. He's amazing. I said, yes, he is. And I got to show you this. A little love for JD tonight, okay? Instagram, there are lots of people on Instagram tonight. We can't see the comments here on Facebook, but look at this. Rob's Reserve says, I, JD, one of the best of us in the wine hospitality industry. Death Cabernet for Cutie says, I can second that. Crazy Curl 88, absolute legend, actually very rad. And then, of course, I said we love working with JD. I totally concur. So a little love for you. You are awesome. And thanks for taking the time to hang out with us and with our members to share.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I mean, this is one of our favorite things to do. I mean, we're in this industry because we love the wine, and above all, we love sharing it. So thank you to everyone, and hi to everyone. And I hope you'll be able to come see us down in Summerland at some point.
Absolutely, JD.
Or at the very least, we'll send you a bit of Summerland to you.
That's right. That's right. And it's free shipping for 12 or more bottles for our members until Sunday, which is a great opportunity to try these wines. And for our VIP Unlimited members, the club is going to cover your shipping for 6 or more. So it's a great time to try it out.
And yeah, and even if it's not completely free shipping, if you stick with the 6-pack or just like that, I mean, the shipping rates are really affordable.
It's like less than what you would pay for normally. So it's a great time to give it a shot.
Absolutely. A special feature with wines that you won't find anywhere usually. So John Daniel, thanks, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the knowledge. I appreciate the hints of the stories and all that. So thanks, my friend.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having us, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Absolutely, my
Awesome.
friend.
Thanks so much. We'll chat soon. That is so great. I love that.
I love that. I love that. He's a good
So much
one.
fun.
He's a freaking good one. I just love talking wine with him.
Yes, he totally gets it, and no pretentiousness, and great
Fuck
story.
no, that's why we can talk wines, him and I, for hours, and like it just there's no bullshit, right? It's just it is what it is, and like yeah. But that amazing wines really it's I think we just mentioned there are unpretentious wines. I think it's a very good way to put it. Just like our conversation, the wine lineup that we have is very unpretentious, but overperforming their price point across the board. We have some spectacular. Oh, you know what? We skipped the Seacrest Mountain Pinot Noir during our conversation. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many. There is so many. You should have seen the lineup. I think we tasted 45 wines almost.
They have a lot of wine.
But this one, the Seacrest Mountain, really, really Okanagan Pinot Noir, fantastic, beautiful wine, 91 points as well. South Okanagan.
That's the other beauty of Carl's Wine Club Feature Week. You get Carl's top picks, so you don't have to go to the winery and taste through 45 wines, which they don't normally taste through. You get Carl's top picks right off the bat. Nothing under 90 plus points, I think, this week. So.
Yeah, 90 plus. It's the nonfiction. It's the lowest rated, but it's one of the funnest wine of all. So yeah, and I said we have a bunch of 91, a 92 plus, and a 93 points. So stunning, fun selection. Like I say, unpretentious wine that over deliver big time price point and expectation. They're fun. So yeah. So thanks, Leslie. It's nice to have you with us. Say hi to everyone in our old stomping ground, Calgary. So it's nice to see you. Nice to see that you're with us tonight. I have 3 more wines in front of me. My job is not over yet. I thought I was done after the interview, but no.
Okay, but you're going to be rapid fire.
What do you mean rapid fire? Geez, are you that hungry? Are you that hungry?
And when you're getting your thoughts together, I just want to say 2 things. So December 7th, we're doing a great little live show for members. December 7th, it's a Zoom, like a private Zoom. We haven't done one of those since COVID times, but it's kind of fun because you get to meet other members. And the whole topic is about, if you dream of going to BC wine country, let us give you all our insider tips. No holds barred. And so we're going to talk about the stories, history, and terroir of each wine region in BC. If you guys didn't know, if we haven't mentioned it enough, we are filming right now an 8-part series on Okanagan wine regions that's going to go on TV to over 1 million people in BC and Alberta on the TELUS Optic TV network. And that's premiering in about a year. But we're filming now for it. So we're going to share some really cool stories about each of the 8 wine regions that we're covering in BC. We're going to tell you what you can expect from the wines in each region, so that if you really love bold reds, well, we're going to tell you where you can find those. And we're going to share what wineries we recommend in each region. And then we also have some bonuses, which are pretty cool with this event. A recording of the event, of course, so you can watch whenever you feel like or rewind. A cheat sheet of wineries that offer free tastings in each region, or tastings where you get the tasting feedback if you buy any wine. So this is a really good little resource to have. You can save a lot when you're wine touring with that. And our locals guide, places to stay, places to eat for each region. Eating is a big thing in wine country. It's rural. So if you don't kind of plan where you're going to stop for snacks or food, you might be, you can't just like run off to a grocery store. There's not that many in rural areas, right? So yes, and Stacy's going to be there. I think
in July.
Oh, and in July, yeah. So the Pan Canadian. Let's not forget the Pan Canadian Masterclass in Niagara next
in June. But they're coming. They're coming in the Okanagan in July after a trip in Vancouver, and they're going to head out to Banff after. So I've been in touch with Stacy, suggesting a bunch of stuff already.
That's right. So if you are dreaming of going to BC wine country, maybe you already have your dates next year, maybe you're thinking about it. They say that it's just as healthy for your mental health to plan a vacation as it is to actually go on the vacation. So join us December 7th. It's $49 for members. We did have a flash sale going on. I think we might still be able to get you that deal, which was half price for the first launch of it. And if you're a VIP Unlimited member, this is absolutely free for you to join us. So I know Stacy is going to be joining us as a VIP, and you just need to send us a note. We'll send you the Zoom link. So that's going to be fun. And the other thing I wanted to mention, what was the other thing, Carl?
Did you read my mind? Christmas gifting. I know. Halloween was last week on Thursday. After Halloween, guess what? Our sites are on the Christmas gifting and also the Advent calendar. We have put together the most unique Advent calendar in the country because I love what wineries are doing. They put 12 wines up there or 6 of their own wines. You meet with the winemaker. They got recipes and fun little stories. What we're doing here, we're doing 12 wines from across the country, and we're going to bring interviews with winemakers, all different of them, from all over Canada, from different regions, from Prince Edward County, from Lake Erie North Shore, from Nova Scotia, from the Similkameen Valley, Vancouver Island, all over Okanagan and Niagara. So we're going to take you on a cross-country tour from some of it, tasting with us or listening to the story with some of the wines that we have enjoyed the most over the last couple of years. It's not our top 10 wine of the year selection, but it's all some of the most intriguing, the most fun, and the most delicious wine from all over Canada. That's our version of our Advent calendar that we're doing this year. 12 or 6 bottles. I think we already have a bunch of people who have purchased it. So we're going to put on the show 12 days in a row between December 13 all the way to December the 24th. We'll be with you on a nightly basis and with some special guests across the board. So get your own Advent calendar. These are like average of $40 something a bottle. So these are no slouch. These are big dog bottles.
You don't have to open one every night. Just a little insider tip. But you can learn about one every night. I mean, you can unwrap it and be surprised, just like in the good old days when you'd open for the little chocolate in your Advent calendar, right? Okay, rapid fire, Carl Boucher. What wines do we have in front of you here? You want to go to wine number 2?
Wine up number 1.
Well, the first red, it does have a 1 on
but
it.
because you labeled 1, 2, and no numbers for the others.
Yes, so go to the first red.
Yeah, so 1, right?
Yeah. And you guys, if you're on with us, tell us if you can.
So 1, 2, and no numbers. The no numbers, I'll call it number 3. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. So I think I have 1 and 2 incredible wines. They are very, very extremely expressive, both of them. The third one, I would say, is a cheaper wine. It's a lesser expensive wine with not of the same pop. It's more tamer. It's not as the same category than the first 2. Okay? So that's my first.
I have no idea what this third mystery wine you're talking about is. I didn't pour it. So did you do that?
You give me 3 reds.
No, I gave you 2 reds. You might have
that was already 1 up here. Okay.
Was that from yesterday? No wonder you thought it's cheaper wine.
I did a video. I did a separate video. Okay. Wow. Okay. 1 and 2. Yes, 1 and 2. There you go. Sorry, I've been between. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting because number 2, there's a lot of herbaceousness, almost cedar, eucalyptus, mint. Number one. Number one is a little softer. This is the dark chocolate that I got on the nose. So I have to say, and I'm listening to Daryl, my friend Daryl, when he say, if you get dark chocolate, call Merlot, Carl. That's your best bet. So I'm going to call Merlot for the first one. And the second one, I have a feeling that it's a big blend from the South Okanagan, from the Okanagan. That's my, there's that everything. That's that dark fruit. It's that tobacco. It's that green herbaceous, no, not green, herbaceousness, almost like juniper. Super, like there's some spice, but very concentrated, super explosive wine, and tannic, very, very tannic. So
guesses, any sort of things that come to mind?
Okay. Wine number one, the first red. I would guess the $25 to $30 price point.
Okay, well, I'm be your researchist because I have not looked these up yet. The samples we've gotten, so.
Yeah, $25 to $30 price point. Easier drinking, but beautiful fruit. Oh, red cherry, a little bit of dark chocolate. Yeah, there's some Cap Franc perspective into that without the green. So I'm not sure exactly, but I would say at least a 92 points to my. It's really, really, really good.
So I got really excited because I found this wine with this vintage on their website. It says $0, but that's because it's sold out. So,
okay.
So it marks it as $0. But let me see if I can find the newer vintage. No, they haven't released the newer vintage, so we don't know the price.
Yeah, so I would say Merlot for the first one. I would say $25 to $30. And I would say 92 points. That's my first. Very ripe, sweet fruit, like ripe fruit, well done. Number two.
So the price is no longer available, but users on Vivino report about $40 including tax. It's a little more than when you thought. It is a Culinary 2020 Insieme, a Passimento style. So that's where you're getting those really strong bursting flavors from. In 2020, of course, big vintage.
Yeah.
And so obviously Niagara, and let's see if I can find out the blend 1 sec, because it seems to be sold out at the winery, and it doesn't look like they have the 21 released yet. So it says intense characters created when these four beautiful wines come together, but we don't know what the four beautiful wines are.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I couldn't pinpoint any. I would I would suspect the Scott Franc and Merlot in there.
Yes, you're correct on both. 40% Cab Franc, 22 Cab Sauv, 22 Merlot, and 16 Syrah.
Okay. It's a delicious wine, like I said. Like, and even if it's $40, I mean, yeah, 92 points stand. This is very enjoyable wine. Really, really, really good. Really good.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, yeah, there's really ripe fruit. Like, this is not candy, but that sweet fruit, that maraschino cherry, cocktail cherry, raspberry jam, and there was that pepper at the end that fits the Syrah. So, yeah. No,
that's great. And Jeff is familiar with that wine. He loves it. So that's great.
Yeah, and so here, wine number two, the second round.
Let's tell. So this was the first one. Okay, next one.
Yeah, and the next one is the second one is a serious fucking wine.
Yeah.
It's grippy, it's powerful, it's a freaking monster. So to me, it's a it's an Okanagan blend of some sort.
A little more freshness in this one. You can tell there's probably.
I think there's a minty. The freshness. I get it from a mint component, eucalyptus, what leads me straight to Cab Sauv. But there's no only Cab Sauv in there. There's other component. There's that cocoa brings. I feels like it's a blend. It's an expensive wine. It's tannic. It's a bomb. This is a long-term project. I would say it's $45. I give that 92 plus, maybe even more. This is serious freaking wine. This is in the almost like the Nota Bene category in terms of complexity. It might be not that far, but it is something like that.
Well, you are bang on. You're bang on with all that. So, do you want to know?
Bye. No. Bye.
You're bang on. So, Cab Sauv, Merlot, Petit Verdot. Is that what you're saying, Carl?
Well, I didn't say Petit Verdot necessarily, but yeah, it sounds like Bordeaux blend all the way through to me. That's all of these components. But I got Cab Sauv first and foremost.
Okay. Well, you bang on, and you're bang on with the premium. This is the King's Ransom, which I think is the flagship at Noble Ridge.
This is absolutely.
It's a $75 wine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Nota Bene. It's Nota Bene. Circle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it's a Meritage. So 46 Cab Sauv, just like you said, 46 Merlot, and 8% Cab Franc. It's only 160 cases made. It's also a 2020. So that's what I thought it was kind of fun. They're red blends 2020 one from BC, one from Ontario. So.
I mean, culinary is ready to drink. This needs another couple of years. This is a sick wine. I'm at 93 plus with that, and I mean, this is gonna age forever. That's a good aging wine.
And validating that it's a serious wine makes you bump up your score a half a point. Hey.
Hey.
Because I think you were like 92 plus. And now you're like 93, which is normal. We retaste it over several days, so I can guarantee that this one is probably going to show even better tomorrow.
Yeah, but the thing with these kind of wine, it's all a projection, and I can project that wine deep in the future, and this is just going to be like. There's an incredible complexity after the mid palate, where the herbaceousness, where the floral, where's the pencil lead and the cocoa and the tobacco and all of that. Like the liquor, there's black licorice in that as well, like a boatload. It's blackcurrant, blackberry. Like really classic Bordeaux blend. This is left bank Bordeaux blend. And that's the long haul.
In their tasting notes, so they say rich aromas of black currant, elephant heart plum, and hints of violet. What is elephant heart plum? Is this like terminology only plum farmers know of, or is this something like I'm missing out on? Elephant heart plum.
Oh, I'm not in the plum business, so I would say maybe like it's like the ambrosia apple or the golden
some kind of very special plum. Elephant. I'm gonna Google it. I mean, elephant heart plum. Have I been missing out on this plum varietal my whole life? Excellent source of vitamin C. Okay. Heart-shaped, juicy stone fruit with deep, fresh red flesh and purple skin. Very pronounced flavor, apparently. Okay. I don't know. Has anyone had an elephant heart plum? That sounds glorious.
Someone is more precise than I am, so that's it sounds like Preston. I had the general manager of the winery. His name is Preston.
There you go.
And I had a chance to do the tasting with him a couple weeks ago. And it's an interesting dude. So the King Ransom 2020, that's a serious fucking wine. Ooh. Yep, baby. Yeah, baby.
There you go.
Yeah,
There
you're
you
right,
go.
Mike. I'm
And then
not
you
in the
have your
freaking plum
mystery
business.
wine. Then you have your mystery wine number 3, which I didn't pour, which clearly has been sitting there for at least today. So let's just ignore
Yeah,
that
no,
one, shall we?
I understand. Yeah, no, I think that I pour a bottom of the bottle. Like, yeah, no, I understand why now. It's like, oh, what's that? Yeah.
That's okay. You know
So,
what, Daryl? If you're going to Tokyo, I have good news for you. There is a Canadian wine store in Tokyo called Heavenly Vines. We met the owner, and they have probably a better Canadian wine selection than any liquor store in Canada. They have some phenomenal wines that you can no longer find in Canada, like back vintages of Batchelder and some really cool stuff. So if you go to Tokyo, this might be a place to stop in on. It's called Heavenly Vines, and they only do Canadian wine.
and Daryl, if you're thinking of bringing a case of Canadian wine back home, just don't do it. Okay, just call me. I might be able to help you instead of bringing wine back. Okay.
Yeah, but you might be able to get something cool that you can taste in Tokyo. It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think we're gonna have to feed the kids, or before shit hit the fan around here.
Elaine says that's where you'd see me with my face in the produce bins. Other than wine, the bins of apple varieties is what I love to try to commit to memory. Elephant heart plum intrigues me. Yeah, it's an interesting varietal of plum. I mean, that's what Okanagan is so glorious for. Elaine, there is an apple that was just developed up the street here at the Summerland Research Institute. These guys developed 80% of the world's cherries. 80% of them were developed here, all the varietals. And they just developed an apple that it's called the Aurora Golden Apple. It's phenomenal. I mean, it is just something else. Like,
absolutely.
Watch for
Aurora Golden Apple in my taste. Watch for Aurora Golden Apple in half of my tasting notes moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, I get hints of Aurora Golden Apple on this one.
Yeah. No, you're more on the elephant heart plum. Elephant heart plum. All right. Anyway.
Anyway, all right. Well, it's great to see you guys. Happy Wine Wednesday. Thanks for stopping by. Big thanks to JD, John Daniel Steele from Okanagan Crush Pad that joined us earlier. What a phenomenal guy and a great interview. And now we know a lot more of Okanagan Crush Pad. So I'm going to put the link in the comments if you want to get more wines with free shipping.
Couple single vineyard Chardonnays, couple bubblies, a fantastic Pinot Noir, a fun blend of Malbec, Syrah, Cab Sauv, and Petit Verdot. Ready to drink Syrah 2018 vintage. So a great lineup here from the Narrative, Haywire, and the Freeform brand at the Okanagan Crush Pad. So it was a great show. Mira Boucher, you freaking rock. Thanks again for putting all of that together. The only thing I have to do during that show is just to talk for an hour and a half. So fairly easy job here. Mira taking care of all of the back end. So you make me look good one more time, Mira Boucher. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
I guess we'll see you next week. Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. See you next time.
Cheers.